time. But guys, welcome to Ponzinomics 101. And in this episode, we would be focusing.
That was a joke.
uh, but again, welcome to Tokenomics with Arcanum Capital, Arcanum Ventures, and Spheron. And in this episode, we would be speaking specifically on how the focus has been with Spheron and also the whole experience designing the tokenomics for it. Today, we have Prashant, who is the CEO and co-founder, and Carmelo and Sasha, who are the co-founder of Arcanum Ventures. Glad to have you guys over here. And the first part was absolutely a joke, honestly, in complete honesty. But this is going to be a very special episode because this focuses on something which is very crucial for a project and also which plays a lot of role in for projects to going out, because if anything which wrong sets in, the whole play can go into the dirt. But my very first question, and which is a very general question for all of you, like Prashant is somebody who's a project founder, and you guys have been designing tokenomics. So from both POVs, how important, we all know it's important, but in the magnitude of importance, what's the importance of tokenomics, well-designed tokenomics for a project? And from your views as well, like how do you see a well-designed tokenomics itself? And it's laid back so anybody can start in. No pressure on anybody to go ahead first.
It requires entire 1 hour or 2 hours to even answer that, right?
Yeah.
because it's a very very broad question, Prakash, honestly. Like to kind of like cover like what is the right of there is nothing for right or wrong. I think that's what I have learned by while working with Camilo and Sasha. I think the right and wrong defines your intent of how you look at these things, and that's where it kind of drills down on the bottom side. That's what I have also learned while working with these guys, that if your intent is right, your token economics will be right. Right? If your intent is wrong, your token economics is going to be wrong. That's fairly straightforward. It is also visible into multiple ways. So I would say is that when there is no like if we go into like I think the space then have to be given to and hand we should hand over the entire whiteboard to both of these guys to kind of like walk us through what is good token economics or not. But from my founder's perspective, is it's that I want to design something which is sustainable. That's one thing which I want to look into. Second thing, the intent has to be when I say intent and sustainability, it goes hand in hand, but sometimes intent and sustainability may not go hand in hand. So that's the reason I'm putting intent also in this aspect. Intent is like our intent is to design the system in a way that it tackles the problem which we are facing, which is, for example, in our case, it's a supply bootstrap issue or in demand bootstrap issues, right? Or these are the intent for me. Like, can it solve these intents or not? Because I cannot go and compete with AWSs out there and start giving out the credits out like outburst to the people. So I think that's the 2 points I would love to touch upon on that. But I'll leave Camilo and Sasha with again. I'll ask them also to keep it very concise because we have a lot of questions which I'm going to throw out to you guys because we have worked together quite a lot. And I have been in your session like 1 hour straight, 1.5 hours straight, 2 hours straight. Uh, so we'll get into those, but yeah, that's my POV.
Awesome.
Yeah, Sasha, you want to take it away?
I don't know. Do you? You're so much pressure, man.
What was the question again?
What do you guys keep in mind? Like mostly like in terms of what foundationally you guys keep in, like what do you think when you're designing and when you're seeing the token model and tokenomics around? So
what are the red
what
flags essentially for him is like I just told about like normal thing. Let me ask the question again to you guys. So whenever you look at any of the tokenomics out there in the market, what are the some of the red flags which you look at?
Oh, well, it's a totally different question.
Yeah,
I think
how much time you got?
Yeah, Sasha, I can probably like rile like hundreds off, like alternating. But I guess the biggest one that not enough people talk about, or maybe people are starting to talk about, are lack of revenue, lack of business model. You need that foundation to be able to build the house, so to speak. So it's like you could be the best carpenter in the world and build an absolute work of art, beautiful wooden handmade house with carvings and everything. But if it's not built on any concrete or solid land, if it's built on a swamp, then it's going to crumble anyways. So the token economic can be a masterclass in design, but if it's not built off anything, like that's why it was a pleasure to work with Spheron, because we came in and originally we didn't even know what we were going to help you with. It was kind of up in the air, and then we saw that you had a really awesome idea, and we were really excited to build this because it was actually a useful asset for the ecosystem, and there was a lot to build off. So the concrete foundation was there and intact, and it made it much easier for us to go crazy and make some really interesting designs and have fun with it, basically.
Yeah, I kind of echo that. I think it's interesting because you, depending on the type of company, different types of economic structures are more appropriate. And when we talk about DPIN specifically, because Spheron can be categorized as a DPIN project, you've got a big network of contributors, and they're contributing something to the protocol in the form of, let's say, GPU, CPU compute. And in return, like many DPIN companies, they're hoping to contribute and get something of value in return. And so it's hard to do that with like a loyalty or promotions program. You have to actually give people some real value or currency for their effort, because they're paying for electricity, they've got some operational overhead, etc. And when you structure a DPIN economy like that, it makes sense to give real value out, but also focus on sustainability and scalability for the company itself. And so it's just like a simple kind of value in, value out model. For a different company like a loyalty and promotions program, it's much looser. But like Carmelo said it well, people think of tokenomics or protocol design as like some separate little black box. But what it really is like, how do these digital assets make up my business model? And in a DPIN project in Spheron, for example, it's directly tied to the business model. You've got rewards, you've got currency going out to contributors, and then you've got those contributors that are incentivized to continue being a part of this network and being a part of this family. And then everything else in between is essentially like, how do you structure incentives for different types of people based on the different motivators that they have, the different types of things that they might be interested in, like if they want compute or they want like development resources or whatever. That's where the creativity comes in. But I think working with Spheron was really cool because, Prashant, I'm sure you remember, like from the early conversations, you told us, unlike many founders you met, you told us like, my goal is to give real value to people that are contributing to my network. People need to be paid for their contributions. And whether that's like funneling value back to the token through a buyback or whatever, I don't care. But a portion of my money coming into the company has to go to the people. And so that's not something we hear a lot from founders. They like to launch a token and pretend it means like you own something, but in actuality, you don't. Spheron's not that case. So it was really exciting working with you, because when you have that drive and passion, then you can structure like a much better token economy. So that was really cool getting to work with you guys.
Yeah,
on
I
But has
think
there been like any? Oh, please go.
yeah, I think that was something which we always strive for, because the way we looked at the entire ecosystem is that everyone was just throwing the token out in the market like that. It's like they were not even realizing, and then after 2 years, 1 year down the line, they are now they want to launch 2.0 version of the token. It's again economics. I don't know like which kind of economics design it is, but if you are so sure that it's and we are also like, we just don't want to launch new token after 1 year, and we just don't want to go ahead and like upgrade the token to new design just because we screwed up our economics design, right? I think that is must, and it has to be tied to how we want to give, how we look at. I think that's the perspective which is very important, and I want to touch upon that as well. Is like everyone, if you go to virtual today, and I'll touch this point honestly, and you guys are economics, like you are gonna answer this quite nicely, and if you don't want to answer, you are free to not to answer. Tell me one thing very frankly, okay, very frankly, and let's be very honest also on Sugar on these things. If
Oh
somebody
man.
is giving out 60% supply to just open the market on day one or whatever, do you really think that model is sustainable as a project? If a project is building a real stuff, is it really a sustainable model to do it in a single go? That's one question.
Man, it's difficult to answer, but like, look, if you're like releasing X percentage of your supply on day one, and you're making a statement like, you know, our value of our company, of our infrastructure, of our business, and the economic activity behind it is Y, then like the numbers need to make sense. Otherwise, they're playing a speculation game for price discovery. And the sad part of a speculation game is that most people don't talk this candidly or openly about crypto, but like, you know, marketing is a great way in that case of like whitewashing the word manipulation. So if I'm playing a speculation game and I want you to believe something, I'm going to release as much content or whatever as I can to convince you of something that might be untrue. And it might be like this asset that, you know, we've got a ridiculous supply out there that's circulating, and I want to see it go up. So I'm gonna like tell people that there's some crazy stuff happening or this or that. Carmelo and I, we don't come from a background in making investments based on speculation. We make investments based on fundamentals, and that means business. That means money. That means volume. That means all these things. But that does not mean speculation. And speculation doesn't fit into the formula of if I make this investment, is that asset discounted, do I believe, where I'm going to be able to get like a good return? Speculation doesn't fit into that really. So I think that's the weird thing that we see in crypto too much. It's like people are experimenting with these ideas of I'm going to release 100% of my tokens at TGE and let the market figure it out, but I'm also going to like try and tag Elon Musk to make some bullshit tweet about it. Like this is a really weird way of, I shouldn't have mentioned his name. We're on Twitter. I forgot. We're gonna get canceled.
No, no, you can. I think he's a good guy in terms of giving out a free speech, or else a lot of things would not have been posted on.
Mello,
But thank you
I'm
so
gonna
much.
get us in trouble, man. I need you to back me up here.
No
Most
comment.
like, yeah. So I think, yeah, I think that's where I also, because for me it's always that if you give out, because token is your only asset which you are gonna keep with you, right? Because if you run a team, for example, if you run a team, right? Every team has capital expenditure, or there's an opex which goes into like to maintain team and to run as it is, correct?
Oh, you cut
I
out for a
I think my
second.
internet. Yeah, so that's
You're
what I
back.
was.
Do
I'm
rug.
back again. Yeah, I was asking very tough question, and then I kind of like I got stopped in between.
Elon be like,
Uh,
yo.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he's back into action. Yeah, but yeah, I was just mentioning that like as a team, if you are running a team, it doesn't make sense because you have an opex which you have to like go and do it, and the moment you sell any of those tokens, it's quite visible in the market, and then people start getting what that team is selling token, and then suddenly that your market value from 4 million FGB to it goes to like around 500K something, even 100K, or even sometimes it goes to zero. And there is a very good output also around that. And this I put to a founder when I was talking to him. I said like, if you're really getting $10 million FDB of your product in the Web3 space, then you should not build in Web3. The reason being because it's very simple. Is that the 10 million, if your product is so good, then you can just directly go into you can just directly go into Web2 and build there, right? Because that's the valuation which looks like. But here you have early exit liquidity and tons of other things, which is kind of like going hand in hand. But I'll not go deeper into that because it will just open up a lot of things for people. But my other questions, which I know Prakash is like eager to ask some questions from his side. So, but I'll throw one more, and then because I'm quite excited to talk to you guys again over this stream, and I want everyone to hear this out. Okay, is the other thing is that if you look at the deepness space as such, right, around the compute, around any deepness space out there, we have seen very we have seen a very different kind of practice where we make token as our primary product, and then rest everything becomes secondary product. On the one side, there's a very big um, say and marketing push that it is going to help us to fund the project. But my always concerned with the token is that this funding is coming from people who might not have a lot of money, but they just bought into your dream of a scammy dream which you were selling out. And then you end up in just not building the product, running away and doing tons of different marketing activities and doing nothing around product and on-chain revenue or anything like that. And if you guys remember, the one thing which I've told you guys also, like while we were designing tokenomics, we want to bring most of the thing decentralized and on-chain. How do you see that happening in Deepin? Are we still on the same phase where Deepin were like, not even Deepin, I think I should ask the more broader, is seeing some differences now in terms of the mindset when it comes to token design?
I mean, the nice thing about Deepin is that you don't need to make an investment so much. Like a lot of Deepin projects, it's more about your contribution. So you're able to become technically an investor or a stakeholder by earning those tokens rather than going the traditional route of investing or buying tokens, which is nice because too many people enter the space under the context or looking through the lens of an investor. I only care about Spheron as an investor. I don't care about anything you're doing. I just want the token to go up in price. Even if I invested $50, I want to turn my $50 into $200, and then I can 4x my investment. That's usually what most people care about in crypto and why they care about token economics. So the nice thing about this is that I don't like taking money from people that can barely afford it. Like you're supposed to never invest any money that you can't afford to lose. And there are people investing money that they can't afford to lose all the time. And I would like to get away from that, but at the same time, it's totally open for everybody to invest, institutions or otherwise. So I guess it's much better if somebody can, invest with their time and energy or their contributions rather than just putting their money in like everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, it's a really good question, and again, like the maybe the most important factor in the answer is going to be the use case or the utility of the token. A lot of people launch tokens, they call them utility tokens, but it's funny enough, like we've been seeing a lot of companies that are very, very vague, and they're very mysterious around like what is the token that they're launching and what it can be used for, and they're playing that speculation game. In the case of Spheron and some other economies that we've seen, when a token is not granting like through a 100% DAO ownership of the company, but the token is being used to maybe pay for and acquire services or products, then it's a medium of exchange, right? And it's as good as cash, it's as good as anything, especially to those people that are your customers that are interested in what you guys are doing, that are using the protocol. And so what you're getting essentially by getting some of that token is you're getting a slice of economic activity on the protocol, and that's real value, right? And so if people are able to earn that through their contributions, and then Spheron is doing what you guys are doing, is a great job of providing a valuable service that people have demonstrated they're very willing to pay for, then that token, which gives certain people an economic slice or a slice of the economic activity, that's worth something to them. They can sell that on markets, and they can take some currency that may be more accessible for other things if they want to spend it, or they can use that token on your protocol for the different types of products and services that you have. And so like this isn't a DAO token. You guys aren't decentralizing the company and selling off pieces of it to token holders, but what you're doing is putting real value behind the success of the company into this token. And that's a beautiful thing. And that's what you should see in Deepin projects. In a lot of cases, you see Deepin companies say, I'm going to launch this token and, run this, I don't know, like this piece of hardware, like stick it outside your house and it's going to measure sound for some reason. And then I'll give you some tokens. And then like, okay, well, what can I do with the tokens? Well, you can't really do anything. You can just sell them. All right. Well, how is the value going to back the tokens? Like, how are you going to get more value to the tokens so you can continue to give it out as rewards? We're not going to commit to anything. Well, then you're just going to have excessive inflation and everyone goes to zero. That's what you don't want to see in Deepin networks. That's what you don't want to see in token economies. You want to see people people be incentivized and rewarded for real contributions with real value. And that's how a token economy like this can work and should work and does work.
And also, just wanted to add on top of that is like, and you guys can also like cross me on that if it is wrong. For me, I just look at deep in. If there is a token, then there should be a product which should be infinitely scalable. Okay, it should not be something which has been like governed by one, like it's completely been controlled by one company, and then you are just getting a pie, and that company decides if you get the money or not. So anyone should be able to fork it to whatever they wish to. I think that has to be the core thesis for the DeepIn also. It's like doesn't matter if it is a weather mapping or it is anything, because if those weather mapping, if those devices are only compatible with your network, then it's a flaw. It's not a DeepIn in theory. Then you are just selling a device,
Hmm.
right? But if
That's a
you can,
really interesting thing, actually.
but if you can just attach any devices and connect any data set so that you can still attract the same thing, I think that's the beauty of it. Because then in that case, what happens that certain jurisdictions, certain places where whether data is not allowed to publish, you can publish and make people aware about what is really happening on the ground. Even though if your device doesn't exist, and that's where we focused at Spheron. So while when we were designing Spheron, our first core concept and core philosophy was that we never wanted to sell anything to anyone. Okay, we wanted people to put in their existing hardware. If you look at the number, if you number chart and everything, we had more than $235 billion worth of compute lying around in the market openly without doing nothing, right? We were tapping into that compute marketplace. We said like, why can't we just enable it? Even portion of it, if we enable, our entire token holder will be the billionaire one if it happens, right? Again, I say if it happens because 99% startup do fail, and we don't hesitate in saying that, right? But coming back on the other side, the nice point which you have mentioned, Sasha, I think people don't understand there's a the token buying and distributing, sharing the economy was designed by, I think, Nike. If you guys remember, have you heard about Nike story where they signed the when they started the place, they started first thing where you signed a contract, player signed a contract with Nike, and they start getting the equity value of the Nike as a royalty
Hmm.
fee, right? They only did it for the first time in the entire sports industry, and really revolutionized the entire Nike chain itself, where Jordan just signed the Nike deal, and it just happened, right? And even today, their entire family gets that royalty no matter what, but they kind of become the part of it. And I think I'd really admire that. But I'll pause here. I'll give back mic to Prakash to kind of ask more questions. But again, I'll chime in between to ensure that we get as much value out from you guys as possible.
Got it.
But I am honestly very curious about like tokens which have like a lot of hype very initially, and they tend to uh, fail post launch, and there is some tokenomics flaw onto that. And how do you guys see it? Because I think you guys are one of the best people to answer questions from a retail perspective as well, because there are so many people who are investing into it. The whole questionnaire is around like there are a lot of hype projects, and you see that okay, this is, and specifically in this whole narrative era where deepin is there, because past cycle there were different things, and now in this cycle there is deepin, and then there is AI, and then there is actual consumer grade hardware and mining grade hardware getting corrected on top of a lot of networks. So what is something you guys look at initially like, okay, this is something which is a big flaw in their tokenomics design per se, and that would lead to like you cannot always predict, but that can lead to a failure.
I think that the number one easiest thing to point to is like the valuations. We've been seeing some wild valuations, and of course, the chart's gonna just collapse into oblivion if you're launching at a wild valuation based off of nothing. And that's crypto. The last several cycles, we're just launching based off of speculation, like Sasha said. Sasha had this joke that it's like a few bros with a few MacBooks and a notebook and a pencil, and we're gonna launch at $100 million valuation, and let's call it a day. And people are surprised when that goes to $1 million from 100 million. But to be honest, I'm surprised it's even at a million. Like a lot of these companies deserve to be far lower. So it's going back to what I said before. Like you have to have a revenue stream or business model. You have to be able to make money outside of the token economy for the token to be justifiable and exist on its own. So if you can run like a business, the token should improve the flow of the business and the user experience and the user journey. Otherwise, it might not be necessary. It might even be a hindrance. And yeah, some of these valuations are crazy. So, and what you described is pretty much every token out there outside of like the top 200 maybe. So it's not
Yeah.
like an uncommon thing. It's very common.
The wave has picked up, like specifically, like everybody has just prefixed AI, suffixed AI
Yeah.
into their project, like data AI and streams AI and DeFi AI. So that's something which has convoluted a lot of like visibility into this market.
And
But
that
yes,
you
Sasha, I want to hear you.
and that real
I've
quick
been seeing
that happens.
RWAI.
Oh
Okay, let's decide who's gonna go first. Yeah,
no,
yeah,
I was just
Carmelo,
gonna I was gonna
complete the
say
thing. Yeah.
that's like that's an example of the other thing I wanted to say is like it's an attention economy. Everything goes down 90% and then it goes back up 5%. And then everybody's cheering like, "Oh, it's pumping." No, it's never going to reach what it once was when it started, and it's because like we're competing for a tiny amount of attention. You know, it's impossible to compete. There's so many things launching. Maybe 3 cycles ago there was a few hundred projects. Now there's dozens of thousands of projects, like so many to keep track of, and that's why everybody pivots so quickly into AI or RWA, Fi, or whatever you want to call it, decentralized cat memes. I don't know. Like everybody's just trying to capture that lightning in a bottle because otherwise you get left behind, and that's if you're not a solidly built company that's like built on fundamentals, like Sasha said, not something that's just trying to appease and appeal the people that are chasing narratives. Like that's not the target demographic you really want to go after. And if that is the people you're trying to attract, your chart is going to go like that.
Yeah, I think
It's
that's quite true. Yes, Sasha.
You know, I was gonna say it reminds me. I used to live in this town where, like, it was a small town and everybody knew each other, and there were all these like bars and restaurants. They were always competing for business, and so they would like have some event or a new bar would open up, and everyone like that knew each other. They would just like migrate to one place and then just go hang out there, and then that restaurant or that bar would have good business for the night, but everyone else would be suffering because there's no one showing up, and this group just migrates to different events or different openings or whatever. And Mello's right, there are a lot of companies in this industry that actively seek Web3 VC capital. And Web3 VC capital is looking for astronomical gains in a very short time horizon. And they can do that by following a speculative formula and trying to essentially go to where this group is migrating between venue and venue and venue and try and extract value from them. And so like trying to use them as exit liquidity, and they've been used up many times. And so he's right. It is an attention economy if you're playing that game and you're marketing to these very speculative Web3 people, and you're doing all this normal stuff around like the crypto launch space. And if you're looking for like real users, if you want to onboard people that like your product or they can actually earn because they have hardware that can contribute compute, then it's a completely different story. But otherwise, Prakash, you mentioned like what are some red flags, or like what causes that kind of failure in a token launch? We have to remember, like, if you see the token launch and then it looks like it's doing well and then it craters, how do you define failure? How do you define success? Someone, I guarantee, called that a success for a very specific reason, right? So someone was positioned well to capitalize on that entire situation. And then other people that are looking at that chart said, I wasn't able to extract liquidity when there was $5 million of volume a day for a week. And now I'm left holding the bag with negative 95% on my initial position. So like some tokenomics are designed to do that. And then some tokenomics are focused on sustainable businesses. And the funny thing is when people say, what does successful tokenomics look like? Sure as hell doesn't look like a chart going astronomically high. It might be something that's way more flat, or it takes a year or two to actually grow with real value and business growth. So that's the funny thing. Everyone's got like this misinterpretation of what this industry is supposed to look like.
Oh man,
But in
while
like,
while while while
oh,
you were speaking, there were a few things in my mind which was kind of going. The line which you have just told is that the group of people move from one place to another place. If you just replace in the forest area, like if you're in forest, how would the same thing would look like? There are a group of lions who are trying to create a run, for hunting, and they are just hunting down the herds out in the like what? So they are that's what I was kind of in my brain. It was really great analogy, Harsha. I think it's
Thanks, man. It's a
yeah.
weird
I think
town. Weird town to live in.
and the same happened in the ocean as well. Like when whales go for hunting, what happens, right? So they just like roam around and they just hunt down those like they group fishes together and they hunt it down. And I think that's what attention is all about. So when you start seeing any attention getting diverted to at a very single narrow point, that's when you have to exit. That's when you have to understand that you are gonna be the exit liquidity for that token or that narrative to be out. And I honestly, but I have a very tough. I just want to understand this. How, like, I have in my past 4 to 5 years of experience in Web3, like we have been building Spheron continuously for, and then we pivoted, we did multiple things, but we remained into infra space. But it's as a founder, it's quite tough to kind of survive in any of these weathers where you see one X company came in, they just like they created the pumponomics kind of tokenomics, push to the Twitter, and then community excited. Again, the same thing, the mentality, her mentality, like they narrate down the things. They went launched a token. Um, for founders like us, we are very, very, very persistent in what we do. But there are founders I have seen they are not, and a lot of them shut their shop, like just by doing so. So, what do you think is like such kind of approach around the design? And honestly, it is not related to tokenomics question, but since you guys also talk to like founders, I just wanted to like take that POV as well. Is where where the any community out there who might be listening this out, what they should look for, what they should look into when they go ahead and try to put in their money into any token out, so that they are not just the exit liquidity. I don't think like token economics is the only design factor which somebody should look into.
It's a very good question. I think if you're looking at like I don't want to become exit liquidity, but I'm interested in investing in digital assets, then the main thing I feel like I'm going to sound like a broken record, but you're definitely not going to be investing in speculation. That's for sure. You're definitely not going to be investing in meme coins because it's just a copy paste times a million of the same token smart contract address with a different JPEG in front. And so you don't want to invest in these like black holes where you're just going to get screwed and someone's going to take your money. And so what's the other option is you're going to look at fundamentals and you're going to look at companies that are doing things that interest you. It's a very common saying in the world of investing: invest in what you know and invest in what you believe in and invest in what interests you. And so if you recognize through your own personal life experience or career experience, there's a big gap in an industry somewhere, you know that it can be fixed. You know that you've been waiting for years for someone to provide some solution. And you know that there are a lot of companies or people or organizations that are willing to pay for a solution like that, then already you know that there's a market. And if there's a market, that means that there's money. And so then you're looking for a company that can try and solve that problem or provide a solution. And if they're using blockchain or Web3 or cryptocurrency to do it, there's a lot of opportunities like there. So now you're starting to check boxes off on the list of fundamentals. And then you get to the token economy, you get to protocol design, you understand like, what does this cryptocurrency do? Is it tied to the value that the company will gain if their business is successful, if people or organizations or these individuals use their product? And if it is, and if the likelihood of them following through on that value is high, like if it's DAO, if you can own a portion of the company through owning some of the token, or if they have some direct sort of buyback or something else that's going to accrue value, then it's starting to look like a good investment. I will give some, that's not financial advice. Here's the financial advice. Nothing is guaranteed in investing. That's why they call it investing. So, make sure you do your own due diligence and you're making smart moves. But if you're investing in speculation, like you get what you pay for. People often talk about how they make a lot of money trading meme coins. They're either liars or they're the 1% of people that are actually making money trading meme coins inconsistently. And the 99% of the rest of your friends are not talking about it because they're embarrassed.
I think it's far lower than 1% actually, like 0.001.
That was I was about to. So you know what? I'll tell you a very classic story. Okay. By the way, it's I'll not take the name who she was and who was he, but this is the
Just drop
story.
it, man. Just drop
Okay.
names.
So the story was that very simple. Like we were on some kind of discussion, and then we were just talking. Hey man, our backs our backs are like is down massively, and all of those stuff. So whenever and the guy was sitting like he said like I bought a lot of this token, and we were like okay, so he might be like buying millions of dollars of like because that's not what we can afford to buy. So we were like, okay, we were like, we just lost $1,000 or $2,000. Fine, we were very happy. That's fine. Like it's a we will make it from somewhere else. But and then when we were looking at, it, he was like so much depressed, and I was like, okay, so I think like we need to just go to him and tell him that okay, no worries, it's all gonna be good. The moment I saw his portfolio, I was like, bro, what the hell? It's like so he
Oh no.
literally bought $5,000 worth of token, and for him it was a lot. Okay, I know there's this $5,000 worth is a lot for a lot of people, but
Yeah.
when you start portraying it in a very different way, so it's like you have a one drop of water and you say that I have a full bottle like water filled in, and the moment you open the bottle, there's nothing inside it, right? And that's the day when I realized in crypto essentially, and that's the day when I stopped even asking people like how what they invest into and what they do into is because what they say like I'm making my $10 to $1 million, it's complete. It may be possible there might be somebody who might be as lucky out there, and I don't know like what he might be doing or what she might be doing. I don't know, I can't claim on that. There are people who do magics and they may become billionaire or millionaire with those $10, and they may become by creating the skills around themselves. That's something which I believe in. If you have a skills, you can always build whatever you want to, even with the $10 as well. But honestly speaking, like after that incident, I just realized that there's when somebody says we they bought a lot of token, just ask them how much was that amount. It
Ask
should
the
not
person supply.
ask the how much
Oh,
percentage of
man.
token you hold. But yeah, that was the interesting thing and learning. I always tell this to my team. It's like, don't ask me what have I and what I said.
Man, it's still very high risk. It used to be I would tell everyone, and Carmelo, I think you were the same way, right? Like you tell everyone, don't ever put money you're not willing to lose into cryptocurrency. I mean, that's changed. Let's be honest. I'm perfectly happy holding a significant percentage of my portfolio in major movers and stable coins. That's fine. Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe even Solana. I'm okay with that. I feel like the risk is lower. I feel like more institutional capital has come in. It's given it validation, and like it's not going to just drop to zero. I'll be honest. Like Mastercard has probably a room of 100 analysts that are doing 100x more research than I am in this industry, and so like they probably know something that I don't. But when it comes to other assets, it's still extremely high risk. You cannot be putting in this much money. And when it comes to meme coins and speculation, if you're not talking about fundamentals, if a team is not putting it on their white paper, which should serve as, official investor documentation saying, hey, this is what we plan on doing, then there's no guarantee and it's gambling. There's no way around it. And people that tell me like I lost $10,000 investing in meme coins, what I hear is I went to the casino and I lost $10,000 because that's the same thing, really. If you're talking about speculation and no fundamentals, it's gambling.
And
Amazing.
Ethereum is the biggest stable coin, as we know. What was it was in 2017, still there. Like nothing has changed.
Not
So
bro. Come on. No, it's not true. We got it again at $99. It was like when I was like it was on bottom out. Now it
That's
is like
wild.
2,200 and it went to around 4,000. I think it's crazy. I think
Ethereum,
we are kind of close to time, so we'll kind of like like the last couple of more questions. And since again I'm asking this question because I want to know this is around I think it's mostly around Spheron. Like when we were designing the token economics, like a lot, and I would ask you guys not to reveal any numbers here. Let's keep everything more close because we have not made it public. But what are the interesting things which you guys have learned while working along with us, like around the compute economics design?
I mean, one of the first things is every time we take on a new project, we have to learn obviously something we didn't know before about a different vertical or industry that or a sub niche in crypto. So, I definitely don't know as much as you guys do about compute networks and what that looks like, but we got to study up on that and learn quite a bit about how these resources are shared and what the competitors are doing and how we can outpace and out deliver them. So we got to do quite a bit of market research. It's kind of like a nice opportunity to learn more about our industry and what other people are doing. So that's definitely maybe a boring answer, but one of the things I really enjoyed about it.
No, I definitely agree. I think as far as like things that surprised me, of course, when we start working with a different team and helping them construct the business model and the digital asset economy, we, like Mello said, we might be uninformed in like what they might be doing, particularly like within the world of decentralized or edge computing networks for AI applications. This was definitely not like an area of expertise for us. And it's funny seeing the thing that surprised me maybe the most in the past 6 months is seeing like a lot of my concerns around risk in business viability go away because there's been such a huge boom in demand for computational resources. And you guys seeing the incredible traction you've been seeing on your protocol just skyrocket exponentially since you launched on like day one. That's been really reassuring because we're sitting here thinking like, wow, okay, not only is there huge demand for this, but the AI push is going to ensure that there's great long-term demand growth. And this business is looking extremely scalable and sustainable. And the best part about creating software infrastructure is that the scalability, like you mentioned, is endless. You build the infrastructure maybe 80-90% from day one, and then everything else, all the rest of it is volume and revenue. And so you guys allow anyone to come and join. You guys allow anyone to contribute, and then you guys provision that computational resource to people that need it for their applications, organizations, trading firms, academic or institutions, whoever. And then you guys, as a protocol, are being profitable and you're growing. So like it's kind of just like endlessly scalable now that you guys have built all this infra. So that's been really cool seeing.
Amazing. Thank you so much for. We are gonna cut this short for the both of us.
It's a strong note to end on.
Yeah, but on the other side is like and this is more around the practical phase of it. Okay, what we have seen is that you might have seen in countries like India, countries like couple of countries out there in the world, has not yet adopted crypto as they should have been, but they are currently working the frameworks and tons of things which are currently coming into the picture. And I think as they more come into picture, then people won't be able to just launch a token because of the compliance reasons. So they have to basically build product and attach it. It's more gonna be like more of IPO kind of stuff, right? Now coming back to on a very very bottom side. So on the deepen adoption side, right? If we kind of look at the biggest concern I always had is around giving out your token to the country or to the people whose country doesn't even allows you to hold any tokens, right? How would a TPN project should tackle such kind of approach? For us, it was a very different approach. I guess you guys have also started with us. Is like the design was very simple. If you don't want to take a token, there is a stable which will get deployed. You can swap it till the time our token doesn't becomes available. You can, because we have this tax system and because we have all of those systems which are in place. We thought about it, but I have seen many projects who has strict direct emission of token to the suppliers, and I don't know like how they are tackling it. Do you guys have any idea around it?
You're talking about for jurisdictions where they're limiting access to digital assets that are like not stable coins, for
Yes.
example.
Yes.
Look, Carmelo, like you can probably back this up. How many companies have we seen or spoken to where they create some sort of like economic structure or business model where they're like very clearly breaking laws. And then it's like you just like hope for the best and continue pushing forward as their strategy. It's wild like how often we see that.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your jurisdiction, and even then, you might be breaking the laws somewhere else. So, if you, that's one nice thing that people's companies sort of use decentralization as a shield. So, Spheron is decentralized. You are, I don't know, it is viable to say like, we're just dropping tokens to wallets. We don't know who's associated with them. We don't know where they're based, where they're operating, where the hardware is based either, because you can be in a different country than the hardware, or the compute resources. So, kind of this ignorance is bliss route. It's sort of like what Tornado Cash did. There obviously it was being used by people washing money, like North Korean hackers and everything. But they were like, we just provide a public good. It's open source. It's out there for everybody to use. The back end is there. The front end might go down, but the back end is there for anybody to use. Nobody owns it, and it's just there. And then they were obviously arrested, and they didn't. Their excuse or response wasn't sufficient to appease the governments, like the U.S. government or the Dutch government. So this was an interesting one, but that's a little bit more sketchy of a use case, like Tornado Cash washing money. It's privacy related, but with this, like if you're just receiving a reward for contributing to a network, it's not a security in that aspect. Like you're contributing something of value and getting something in return. And then you also have the other thing thrown in there that these people might not even know they're getting tokens, or they might never interact with them. They might not know how to use a wallet. They're getting tokens dropped to a wallet, but those tokens might be lost in the ether because nobody knows how to access them, because they're not associated with the person. They're more associated with a wallet that's associated with a piece of hardware. So you have like quite a bit of buffer in there to protect you in this regard. But other projects, it's a little bit less obvious how they can escape that. But the easiest answer is a lot of like these launch pads, for example. They say you are not allowed to use this if you're American, and that's it. That's like the amount of diligence they do. Like, how easy it is to use a VPN. Like I can say, yeah, I'm not American, and if you have to KYC, okay, I'll find somebody to KYC for me. That's usually what people do in crypto, and that's usually how crypto companies wash their hands of this. It's not my responsibility.
Yeah, I think that's kind of quite fine if you ask me, like on the very foundational level, because now we are saying like it's your responsibility. We have given you. We don't even care how exactly things are gonna be, right? So for me, I'm done. My job as a foundation is done to kind of like give you a token. So essentially, then what you are saying on the bottom side is that anyone who is building physical asset based tokens, which is being owned by or supplied by a single entity or a company, won't they get binded or affected with such kind of regulations?
It's funny because we have limited information to figure out what the future of a successful crypto company might look like. And we know that many lawmakers in the world of cryptocurrency, Web3, and emerging technologies, when they're drafting like initial legislation that needs to apply to something completely new that they've not seen before, they will include vague language that gives them the flexibility to pursue a different agenda that they might be interested in pursuing. And so if you're talking about like the long-term roadmap and history of a successful cryptocurrency company, there's going to be something in there that might be controversial. It might be like an airdrop where like specific language was used, and somebody in some government office somewhere is going to be able to find 10 things to point the finger at and say, let's send them a Wells notice and sue them for $20 million. They've gained a $20 billion valuation after 5 years. So what does it matter? So like this is what we've seen as far as like what history has showed us. We've seen a number of emerging cryptocurrency companies that have gained massive steam. They've grown very, very large, and then they've gained like large treasuries as a result. And then we've seen legislation come afterwards. And that's kind of like the bet that so many different cryptocurrency companies that are startups that are operating in gray areas or illegally, blatantly doing illegal things. That's the bet that they're making. They're saying that like these legislators are stretched so thin and they cannot possibly pursue legal action against everyone. I'm going to fly under the radar until somehow, if everything goes according to plan by some miracle, my company gains a $1 billion valuation and I'm making a lot of protocol revenue, then I might have a new problem if someone decides to sue me. But at that point in time, I'm going to have enough money to deal with that problem. So that's kind of like what we've seen in the past. And I think that's what we're going to continue to see.
Yeah, and also we don't see people suing the people like who don't even have money. So
Yeah.
how
Yeah,
would
like
they pay
Our
it?
US
So
friends
that-
has also dropped something in the chat.
yeah,
Like, thanks Manifest Network for watching this and putting your piece on that.
yeah. So I think
Now we
there
know
are
how you
multiple
claim airdrops.
there are multiple ways we all can, like, I think the jurisdiction now, at least seeing the recent regulations which US is bringing, which is very very good, because I was in US spending time done, like how regulations and things are being shaped there. I think it's going amazing. I love personally the way they kind of lead the stance and take the leadership position into those areas. I think they are doing amazing, and a lot of countries will follow along with them. They will be late again in the party, but they are gonna be into the party soon. So yeah, I think very very nice points, guys. I think love the entire conversation here. But I'll pause here. I know Prakash did not had a lot of chance to ask questions. He has
But this
prepared.
has been good. Like, this has been a masterclass on tokenomics, honestly. And for people who have watched this stream, we really love you. And this is the whitelisting code for you for 800 points. So go ahead,
Yeah,
tg.spheron.network is already running, because in last stream everybody were like, they went like, whoa, where is the code, where do we put it in? And so there is the code, and please to put into tg.spheron.network. Feel free to use this has only 20, this is for only 20 users, so fastest fingers first.
yeah,
And love to everybody who has been watching this. We got a lot of people commenting on this, and this is fresh, because you see a lot of people like farmers per se, like are mostly like into this and comment here and there. But has been mostly a great masterclass on tokenomics, and we have been seeing a good reception in terms of people who are watching this. So thank you so much, Carmelo and Sasha, for being here. Thank you so much, Prashant, for being here. This has been good, and we have understood from Spheron's perspective how we really stand in. Thank you, honestly, thank you for doing this for Spheron as well. And I hope ETH to 4,000. ETH is just
not
not a
4,000,
stable
bro.
coin.
Come on, we are expecting 10,000.
hell of a
We
way
are,
to end a live
we are,
stream.
we are
Let
expecting,
let me please exit, please. Let my mom exit from ETH.
bro. Come on,
Guys,
we are
come on.
expecting.
Oh my
I'm
God.
holding up. I'm holding up for the 10K. I'm not holding up for 4K, bro. Come on. 4K, 60 went up
I've asked my
to
mom to buy it, and she's not able to exit it. And she's like, when does this goes up? Like, we got every expert on the panel, but nobody's able to tell, like, when. So,
Oh man. This
But yeah,
has been it's been an
but
absolute pleasure,
no
guys.
no investment advices here. Again,
oh
we are
yeah.
just doing it for fun. You do your own due diligence, and whatever you do your best to get into any place. But again, thank you guys from my side as well. I really appreciate your work at Spheron, which you guys have contributed so far, and we are gonna be like engaging as much as possible. And yeah, looking forward to make Spheron great.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us on. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. Looking forward to chatting some more about this or other topics. Yeah.